Hey programmers, welcome back. Right now I want to show you a JavaScript solution for this level averages problem. So hopefully you're doing these problems in order. If not, highly recommend that you do that. And we'll jump right in, and this is really just a spin-off of our last problem. Right? We know we need some type of level order traversal, but in the long run we just want to find the average of each of those levels. So we're going to find a nice intermediate step here. So I'll jump right in and we'll implement exactly what we said in the approach video, right? And so we'll start by writing a helper function that will find us every level of the tree, right? That way I can just have those values in those subarrays. And so let me gather up those levels. So I'll say const levels over here. It's going to contain my subarrays, and I'll have my helper function similar to before. I'll call it fill levels. It's going to take in some current node, we'll say root, and this one's going to be recursive, right? So root, it's also going to take in the levels array that's going to add things into, and also my level num, right? Nice. And I'm going to call fill levels on the root, passing in the levels array. So it's going to mutate, right? My fill levels function is going to mutate this levels variable, and I'll pass in the initial level num. What is the level of the root? Well, it's definitely 0. Nice. Now I can just write the code for this fill levels. So what would that look like? Well, that would be some basic or recursive depth first. So always start with your base case. If you hit an empty node, right? So if root is null, then I've gone too far, so just return, nothing to do here. But otherwise, you should make your recursive calls, right? So call upon your root left, pass in the same levels. How do you know the number, the level number of your child? Well, if your parent has level n, then your child has n plus 1. So just increase it by 1 here. And you know that both children, because they're siblings, they would have the same level, right? Just like this. So that gives me the nice recursion, but the whole point was to actually add stuff into the levels array. And so I'll need to be sure to create new subarrays where necessary, right? So let's say that this level num, it does not exist in this levels array yet. Well, one thing I can do is just check what the length is, right? If I think about the very, very first node I'm going to traverse, that'd be the root node, right? So I know that level num is 0. I also know that the length of the levels array is also 0. And there's no subarray inside, right? If there was at least one subarray, if the subarray I needed was inside, then its length would be 1, right? Don't get it twisted. This array has a length of 1 because it has exactly one element, right? But if it's empty, what I can check is if levels.length, if that's equal to my level num, then I know that I need to actually create that subarray for myself, right? So I'll say, all right, create a subarray, go ahead and throw down my root val inside, and that will be creating that level for the first time. So I'll say levels.push that subarray as an element, forming my nested array. But otherwise, it could be the case that we already have the correct subarray seated inside of the outer array there. So I can just say levels at square bracket level num. So just use level num as your index and just push your value into that existing subarray. So root val. Cool, so that might be a decent helper function. Why don't we just go ahead and for now I'll just kind of debug my code as I go. I think this is a good pausing point. And I'll bring in one of the manual test cases here. So I'm going to steal maybe this example. Run these manual cases. And I just want to see that I created the correct level array, right? So I won't get this answer yet. We'll just run this as a script. I want to see that 2D array because I'm printing out levels right now. Getting an error, node is not defined, probably because it's not defined. So I'll comment in my class definition just so I can actually call the constructor in my own manual cases here. Nice. If I get a 2D array, I feel pretty good about that. I want to make sure I get the correct things, right? So 3, 11, 4, and then separately 4, negative 2, and 1. All right. So if this 2D array is my levels, now I just need to find the average, of each of those subarrays. So I probably at this point, it's kind of just academic. I'll create a little helper function to find the average. You should know this off the bat. So we'll say const, I don't know, avg. I'll say get avg. And it will take in some array and just compute the average of it, right? So just take the sum, what I can say is nothing fancy way, sum equals 0, then iterate, we'll say for every num of the array, so iterating through the elements of that array, add that number into the sum, like that, and then return the sum divided by the quantity of things. So that'd be array.length, right? Nice. So this takes in a single array to sum. Nice, and I want to construct an array of all of those results, so I'll say finally maybe let const averages here. It's an empty array. Then I'm going to iterate over levels. So we'll say for let level of levels. I would just find the average of that level. That'd give me a number, right? Give me a number like 3 or 7.5. And I just push that into my averages. So like this, averages dot push. I want to push this expression, as a matter of fact. Something like that might be good. Be sure to return your final averages. Nice. A lot of helper functions here. I think it keeps our main function pretty nice and flat, which I prefer. So let's give that a test run. Maybe I can show you another fun way to maybe just implement that ending pattern. So this does indeed calculate the average of every level. Nice. Main course here was really rebuilding this function. But while we're here, maybe you're aware of some JavaScript, maybe you're not. In any case, I'll fill you in. Whenever you have this scenario and you just want to basically take elements of some array and just manipulate them in the same way, generating an array of the same length. In other words, here I kind of converted levels into an array of averages. You could just use the JavaScript map for that. So if you want to, flex, I guess, and use the map pattern, it's not really a flex, it's kind of a common thing, right? You can say levels dot map, and you can just map with get average, and that should do the thing properly, right? So what it's going to do is map as its behavior. It's going to take the element of the levels array, and it's going to pass it as the first argument to this get average function. So if I run that, nice, and there we have another solution. So map under the hood is going to return you a new array containing the results when you pass in every element of the original array into this callback function. So notice that I'm passing the get average function itself. I'm not invoking it here. So I'm actually giving this function into the map. All right, so I think that's all I got for this level averages problem. Make sure you practice this problem, and I'll catch you in the next one where I think we'll increase the difficulty.